Well, hello everyone. Welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by Quick Creators. Today we have Mr. Vivek Tiwari with us. Vivek is a former scientist and is presently a practicing advocate, primarily before Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, and occasionally before Honorable Delhi High Court and Honorable Supreme Court of India. He also serves as managing partner of a technology law firm called Analogue Legal, and he has been part of some of the most important litigation matters and some of the most controversial litigation matters as well in Indian judicial history, such as Dera, Sacha, Sauda, Rahim case, and the Jaat reservation, Jaat Andolan, I'm sorry, not reservation, but Jaat Andolan case, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot to learn and discuss. It's going to be a roller coaster ride today. So without further ado, without taking much of your time, let me introduce you to the man himself. Hi Vivek, welcome to the show, and how are you doing?
Hi, Sagar. I'm all good. Well, thank you for being here and inviting me here, firstly. Let's carry it forward.
Sure. So as you see, Vivek, I tried my level best to cover things about you, but my first question was actually to understand a legal case or legal issue from your journey, any one of them. But before that, I want you also to fill the gaps if I, left any, and set up a context for you. I mean, from being a scientist to a lawyer, how does that worked out for you?
Okay. So, law was not even a decided option for me, not even in the list of careers that I've ever thought of. Right. I was very clear that I wanted to be a scientist, at max to be a scientist along with a professor. Well, teaching like at the daily hours and maybe at some night doing some mad stuff in the labs. So that was what I actually wanted. I was very happy, having or pursuing a career like that. That is what I dreamt of. But then, you know what? With time, things started to change. Fortunately, I think at a very young age or an early age during my undergraduation years in science, well, I have my undergraduation in bioinformatics, computational biology, and drug designing. So that's a very interesting stuff, right? So we used to create a lot of good domain specific and drugs and algorithms that had a lot to do with the computer programming as well, right? So it was more of an applied sciences. But after that was done, I created two or three softwares, which was important. Just to give it a brief, that most of the times how we have seen the natural sciences evolving is that the Stephen Hawking kind of a time. It's all theoretical sciences, ideally. And then we have the technological aspects of what happens today is the applied sciences, right? But there's a huge gap in between, right? Suppose take an example of biotechnology. You need tens and level, rather in many cases, 20 years of investment, both of time, effort, money, everything, right? And even then you're not sure that if you can come out with something great. So that is how we entered into the part of it, that we used to create algorithms in something that could help us design the drugs and everything, right? So I had few of the stuffs along with my team, but then the problem started to arise when we started to apply for the Google X Prize, the NASA. We represented that team, and then formally this thing had to be patented. Now, this is where the problems actually started for the first authorship or the first applicant. So I think, I would rather say that my experience with in the college which I was at wasn't that enlightening, I suppose. And maybe that is where I started self-studying. And maybe that is the time when I fell in love with the IP laws because of the process. I had to do it on my own. So that is how I think I fell in love with the idea of law. I already had a friction in science with the existing system, so I had to part my ways. So that is how I started. And the part about the matter, I think, yes, the Ram Rahim matter, Jaat Andolan, CDSCO drug trial, these are the important matters. And I think personally, coming from the science background, the drug trial matter was something which attracted me the most. Okay, it was more about, okay, so there was this girl, I will not take the names and everything because that have any which way, although the information is available in the public domain, but then she's no more. So, she was suffering from a skin infection, not something very hazardous. It was a normal skin infection that ideally happens in routine, maybe for certain unhygienic measures or whatever, right? So this was happening in Chandigarh, right? So we had a company and the drugs were already available in the market, right? So while she was being treated, she was diagnosed with few of the symptoms of cervical cancer. Okay. So she was, told firstly that this is the drug we are going to test upon you. But the point being that the drug is any which way a very successful drug. But well, again, you cannot say that anything technically in science. Well, exceptions can occur anytime, right? That is what happened. Unfortunately, she died. We had the consent and everything, but unfortunately, she died. She couldn't make it. So the point was about the compensation. Well, India, the concept, it is very much clear in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, Section 39, 40, and so on and so forth, that what is the idea of compensation, how it has to be provided, and what is the exact procedure that needs to be followed. Fortunately, the company which was involved into all that, they were very cordial. They did everything. But the point arose when this lady's father, who is presently residing in Uttarakhand, he lately came after 2 years that the compensation was not enough. Although he was not willing to carry this matter forward, but again, well, we cannot bring the debt back. But the least we can do is at least provide them with the equal level of compensation that at least the law has granted them, right? So we had to follow it, and we had to prove that she was a fit person. And as you know that if in any kind of cases of compensation, the age, the gender, the biological age, and rather the level of fitness, both physical and mental, all of these are counted for making compensation. The least the age, more is the compensation, right? So in that case, that was the point. Although the medical reports were very clear that she was suffering from something, but it's equivalent to the fact that if I say that, well, Sagar, you are suffering from depression. Okay. But there is a huge difference between the idea that you are feeling depressed or you are suffering from depression, right? There has to be clear distinction with that. So that was the point, which I think was one of the most memorable times. And I think this was the only trial I had. After that, I shifted totally towards corporate, not because willingly, but I started getting matters into all that. One of the matter was a trademark infringement matter involving Intel corporations and all that. So that was nice. And I think the MG Motors case, their Indian entry strategy. So I was fortunate to be part of that. Not like a very lead role, but I was like working in the team who was actually leading the entire case. So that was amazing, I think. So yeah.
That's brilliant. And I mean, I was about to actually go in deep into that, but you already took us, and it sounds like a really beautiful journey. I mean, the shift. In fact, I have studied biotechnology as part of my graduation, so I mean, I can understand bioinformatics has been there for me as well. So I understand where you're coming from, and even in some of the
I'll just share one thing, if you allow me. So actually, when we were doing this project, there was another project which was about the Streptophilus thermophilus, if you're aware of that. It's a basic general normal, right? So the point was about to measure the heating capacity of that bacteria. How does that entire thing works? So our college never supported us in that regard. Okay. I'm not going to name it, but that is how it is. So we actually parallelly and privately submitted a project to few of the agencies well around, be it EMBL, NASA, and many other projects, DDBJ, Japan. So these were the institutions. So we obviously, what do you expect? They are not going to mail you, right? But it was EMBL who got back to us. And I think that was how we could take the project forward. It was amazing. Then we ended up creating a few other samples and everything. So that was how I entered into that world of science, like practically. And I think that is what I brought into law as well, that, it is not important to read science or read law. You might not be doing or not having the degree of science or law, but I think it's more important to live that subject, be it science, be it law. So yeah.
I mean, that's right. And both are generally, I mean, law is a practice, and
It
being
is.
a scientist also, it comes with a lot of practice, and it's an ongoing job. I mean, it's not that you're sitting in an office and I mean, you're wise enough to say that spending your nights in a lab to just get that A to B graph line on the same trajectory, which is
Exactly.
like you're spending 10 years in that. So I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from, and this has been I mean, this sounds like a very beautiful journey. Um, I also wanted to understand that when we talk about some of the not the complex, rather I would say controversial cases that becomes controversial because of the level of individuals involved in it, and of course the media level of media involvement. How
Political
do lawyers tackle with it, and does the media role affect the I mean, how does the media role affect the lawyer and the procedures in the case? I mean, let's talk about the Ram Rahim case, if we can.
I think the Ram Rahim case came, well, technically, naturally, very nice to me I never faced anything in that regard, in that sort. Even my seniors did not, right? That was the only matter in which I was fortunate enough to share the dais with the present Attorney General, R. Venkatramani. So that was an amazing part. The Jaat Andolan case was something which had to bring its certain sides. Well, because see, it involved a community. As simple as that, right? Well, by definition, if you expand the community, the idea comes of demography, right? And then you have this community, it is any which way known as the martial com, right? They have that fighting tendencies, but their reasons of asking for their demands were different. And worst to worst things happened during those times, right? We were representing the CBI, okay? But I had a whole new regard and respect to the people who were representing that community as well. Because it was not just about the community, it was about the government, it was about the community as well. And then it was also about the individual leaders from that community who were picked up, right? At one aspect, we can say that it is about the freedom of speech and everything. But at other aspect, it was terrible to know that, well, the part of media, as you said, they actually brought up stuff or the information which we as a lawyers could not find it out. I'll just share an instance. While you travel from Delhi to Chandigarh, there are numerous places you see. Of course, it is a highway. You find very rural areas, right? But you found like undergarments or all of that stuff of women lying there on trees or all that, because that was something which came as along and part of that entire riot that happened. Okay. So it was not all, it is, see, this is part and parcel of every riot. It doesn't come always with that, see, these are the needs that we want, and every member of that community is adhering to it. No. There are hooligans, and we agree to it, right? This is where it came as a surprise. And there were many people, well, we being from CBI, we did not have any lot of pressure from them, but I think we could use these reports rather. Okay. And I think media already today has already set their opinions. They know what they are doing. They exactly know where they have to lead it. So I think they already had a mind in this regard that, okay, maybe the demands were legit, but the ways were not. And definitely because we were against the ways, they appreciated us. And I think as a young counsel, I think that was nice.
I mean, that's right. I mean, and about the media, the narrative is
actually imagine that, what would have those women gone through just because they lived in those villages. That's it. So that was not something.
That's pretty disturbing, actually.
Yeah, it is.
And these things generally do not reach us. I mean, I'm a big fan of podcasts and interviews. That's why I love hosting sessions. Recently I've been through in the journey of media and the reporting. We started with writing and then reading of it, narrating, and then showing it on a television, and then now we've started creating news. So we are creating news out of many a times out of nothing. So and we are missing out on the real things that are happening. I don't think we should name it, otherwise we're going to get a lot of bombardment on the comments. So but it is what it is. Okay, so coming back to a lot of not that lighter note, but you see, in current legal systems drive towards encouraging access to justice, how do you rate that? And is there a gap? And if yes, then is there a tangible movement in closing that justice gap? What do you think?
Well, okay. I will, because I've always been very clear about my ideas and what I've thought, okay? And I had to face repercussions for that also. But thanks to law, that was the only reason I chose it, because I had to speak what it is. So ideally, what I feel, personally, because I'm actually working on a matter. It's a very sensitive matter, and it actually gave me an insight over how actually all these things work, or rather to say how these institutions work, right? And when I say institutions, not a single institution or an organization, but rather the institution as an idea. Okay, I won't go into detail, but you get it, right? So the point being that so we call these institutions the temple of justice, but I've seen grievous injustices happening day and again, time and again, every day in these temples. So am I saying that the institution is provoking it? No. See, the institution doesn't do it. Institution is an identity. It's the people who are running it, right? So that is the point. See, even today when I was talking to someone, so that is how I came. The idea when we practice law, right? We go to the court, we bow down to the judge. Ideally, you should, right? But then what's the history of it? Do you actually bow down to the judge or to that person? Technically not. It is that common law tradition where today we have the emblem behind the judge. At that moment, we used to have the monarch behind the judge, right? So we actually used to bow down to the king and not to the judge. So technically, even today, if the judge is not sitting in that courtroom, the courtroom is empty, you should be there and bow down to the emblem, because that is the symbol of justice to you, right? But then, to answer your question shortly, well, I have seen a lot of bad stuff at a very young age, and like young age, when I say in very young time in this profession, ideally. But does this profession or this system have the capability and capacity to provide that justice? Yes, absolutely. It does. I have seen people working day and out totally without any reasons, causes, any fees, nothing, just for that one thing that, that victim must be provided justice. Rare people to find, but then yes, it is.
Yes, that every institution, I mean, everything has their sides of the coin. So
Yeah,
completely agreed on that.
yeah.
What do you think is the way out in terms of closing justice gap?
Okay, so I think first the cost. The cost of justice is very high. See, justice is what? Let's define justice. What is justice? Justice, see, okay, I agree that every person has their own definition of justice, like any other aspect. But why will I seek justice? Because I feel that my right has been infringed. I have not been given something which I deserved, or I had, or I was taken away all that from, right? So the point being begins that I had something. Now, so and so people, or so and so institutions, or so and so reasons took that away from me. I need that. I need something which belongs to me. And for that, I have to pay what? 13 lakh per appearance. If I have to win. So that is weird. That is different. And, I was not totally aware of this. I knew it, but I was not totally, I did not adhere to the idea, for the reason being, I thought, okay, it's all about the merits. You stand, you argue, but sometimes, face value matters. And the idea that, gray hair, lawyer, litigation, that exists. So I think the cost of litigation is very high. Cost of justice in that regard. I think if that can come down, I don't think we are anyway lesser as an institution, as a system, as the young talent pool. They are brilliant. But the only thing I think is the cost.
This is going on a very fair note, I must say. I mean, when it comes to the session, very blunt. And I also want to add with a single line from a Bollywood movie, and it's a very beautiful line. It's not a business of justice, rather it's a business of law.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's right.
this is what it is now completely. Um, I mean, we also have seen, recently uh, in pandemic. I mean, it was horrific, but ironically, it brought a lot of positive disruptions around, whether it's such as legal tech. We'll talk about that as well. But in that time, the pandemic time, we saw some courts begin moving towards more remote proceedings and availability.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is this sustainable and a possible way to increase access to justice, in your opinion?
Indeed. I mean, I don't find any reason why it doesn't. See, to accept a technology or to accept something which is coming new, you just cannot defend it or argue against it, stating that, what, these are the backlogs, these are the reasons it cannot work, these are the things which cannot work. See, if it has even 1% of chances of working at this possibility during the times of COVID, as I said, see, everyone transitioned to this mode drastically and immediately. So we did this with the existing infrastructure we had. So I don't think any which way that this is not sustainable. I think this is a brilliant idea. It just needs to be nourished. And well, if you take it down to the judicial system, the 3-tier system that we have in India, or rather in anywhere in the world, I think the district courts will have to suffer, because I don't think they are yet ready for that, both in terms of the capability, knowledge, acceptance, accessibility, all of that sort, affordability rather. Okay, but because the affordability will not lie just around providing them with these services. It will also be about teaching them about these services, how to use these things, right? So then it comes to many other aspects of getting the internet connectivity and everything. So letting apart the lower courts, I think the tribunals and the high courts and Supreme Courts have done pretty well in that. And I am okay. And recently, I am involved into an arbitration involving an Australian party and a party from France, but they are seated somewhere in America, like under the American Arbitration Association. So I wouldn't have been able to travel, and I think I'm not even a senior led part. I'm not even few years into the profession. I wouldn't have been able to afford that kind of travel frequent, right? Or maybe to stay there, just like senior counsel Hari Salve did for a year or 18 months for Vodafone, right? So I think this is something which brings a lot of opportunity. Maybe we wouldn't have been doing this. So yeah.
That's very fair. That's very fair. Um, okay, one more thing. I mean, there are two options. Let's say litigation, arbitration. What would you choose? Of course, it depends on case to case, but still, I mean, let's talk in the generic sense. Litigation or arbitration. What's your poison?
Okay, so litigation has its charm. We cannot deny that, right? But arbitration has its value. And I love arbitration because of the fact that, well, my personal experience being that I'm young, but the kind of faith that people have, and it is not just you cannot have or gain people's faith just by showing your CV or your previous history of, these are the cases I fought, or one or XYZ. It's about something beyond that, right? So I think in arbitration, you are way more connected to the people directly. It's very limited in scope. You are in command of everything. Although the stakes involved are very high, making it difficult for young counsels to even thinking about entering into that subject. But I think, as you say, litigation and arbitration is like two sides of the same coin. Because although we agree to the fact that, suppose the procedural laws or the natural procedural laws, CPC, Evidence Act doesn't apply, but does it actually happen in real, uh, particularly in case of the domestic arbitration? It doesn't. See, the arbitrators, most of the times they are retired judges or very senior advocates, right? They are very clear about the fact. And then the act also has its provisions, right? That the arbitrators or the tribunals have that leeway that if you want, they can use that. And most of the lawyers, they do agree. At least that is the case in Delhi, Chandigarh, whatever. Apart from the ad hoc institutions, right? So it is same thing. If you would have asked a litigation or corporate, maybe the IP thing, then I think IP. Yeah, that's that's
That could have been an easy question for you. I mean, I don't want to make that easy for you,
okay.
because there are a lot of honest answers coming in. So I
Mhm.
want to, just keep them coming for the session. All right. Now bringing it finally to the lighter note of the session. Uh, as I told you, as I mentioned that ironically, pandemic brought a lot of positive things around it, such as legal tech, which we missed in the last question. We are standing in the middle of the legal tech era, and finally, it has reached Asia on a very good scale. In this, what are the most commonly used tools for you? How does that help to make you go easy with the task?
Okay, so well, today we have a lot of tools, right? And everything related to softwares and computers, web applications, mobile applications, desktop applications. You have a lot. You name it, you have it. You have many free of them as well, right? You don't have to pay for all of them. But the only point that, well, it gives me a point about it. Like, it irritates me that although you have a lot of platforms, not every platform is worth using. I have always had a contention against SEC Online, not because it is not a great software. It is amazing. It is literally amazing. It has everything that I think any lawyer can imagine. But maybe that is the reason it is more like that I take you somewhere to a room, and that just imagine that room to be as huge as possible. And then you have world's all the books related to law, right? But the counter question could be, well, Vivek, we have keywords and searches, right? But that, see, I'm talking in a perspective of how I've been dealing recently in few matters of artificial intelligence, machine learning. See, these are not accurate. They can never match up the human brain and the human eye, at least for what's happening today. They can, as we say that humans will never be able to match up the speed of these citations or these key searches. True, undoubtedly. But then there is something called accuracy, right? I don't think, I have never personally found that good. What I think is, rather than investing, because I have always been in a crunch of uh, resources, right? Initially, I think every lawyer is. I'm a first generation lawyer, so everybody is. So in that regard, rather than investing in these web portals, okay, it is better to have a legal management tool that you must have. That will serve you a lot for a whole long time. I use CaseMine. I love it. It also has its inbuilt features for searching cases and everything, which I find more good. It's ease with what I wish to find. SEC Online is clogged. It's clogged with everything. So it's good for an academician, what I feel, but I don't find it. So I have been very clear that, okay, this is what I want to use. This is I do not want to use. And I think there are many free portals. See, Case Mine or SEC, we have to use it because it is the only admissible thing that courts use. Not admissible, but identical. Like it has a convention after it was actually launched. But then there are other platforms. Indian Kanun is amazing. Manupatra is amazing. Manupatra is amazing. You just need few skills, but it serves you a whole lot than SEC. Go for SSC if you're dealing in international matters. They have amazing work and stores for African laws and all that. That is good. If you comparative constitution you want to read, go there. You want to read about the Privy Council judgments, SEC. But if you want to search something and you don't know that, okay, let's use SEC as a search engine, no, that's not good.
I love the way you answered this because so far I've asked this to I don't know how many lawyers, and we've just received a very, I won't say boring at all. They all were great in terms of answering it while they were, because they are telling what they use, but the way you're telling is, I mean, I guess it comes from being a scientist. That's what I can sense. All right. Mr. Tiwari, last question of the session, which I don't want to actually do or make it last, but everyone is busy. Lawyers are busy, and it is about the time. So, time is money in any profession, and in legal, it's most of all. How do you ensure to make the best of your time as a lawyer? And okay, I'll ask the and question after that, but let me have an answer for this.
Okay. Um, just very clear, like the mantra of my life, read and run, the two things which keep you active. I don't run much. I don't have that time, but like trying to follow it up. But reading, yes, read anything and everything that you get. Not a great ardent reader of fiction, but non-fiction. It has helped me a lot. Rather, everything, visiting back to our school books, to our basic books, everything. Like, it was like recently I was reading this. I was provided these two books by few of my friends. So one is this Man's Search for Meaning. One is this, and one is Learning the Law. It's a very old book, but that is how they define then what is law. First, understand what is law, right? So I think read everything. That is amazing. And there are many books maybe you would have read, but I wouldn't even have heard about it. So just read. This is how you utilize your free time. When it comes to your the times of your hearing, I think be very strict about your deadlines and disciplined. Right? You shouldn't cheat your clients. You shouldn't be proud of a fact that what, I haven't filed this matter for 6 months. Why are you hurrying up? Lawyers don't work this way. You should be calm, composed. You work aram se karo. That's not how lawyers should work. You should always be in a sense of hurry. There has to be a purpose. No, why have you chosen law then? Be strict to the timeline and about the necessities of the clients, basically. So yeah.
How should I put it? Not too tasty question. The last one, finally, the last one. Do you think the value proposition that you are, or the value that you're proposing right now as an individual, are you going to hold to it in a long run? Because I'm not sure. Is this the fraternity that changes the individual, or is it every individual that is sort of the same way? I mean, I'm not sure how does
I
that
wish
work, but how you look at it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. What you're saying, that I just wish that I do not turn out to be the another part of this crowd. See, I have nothing to say against the bar. It is a powerful organization, a really democratic system. But then there are generations of who are practicing here, right? Even you and I, even we might not share the same ideology. And it's here about the generations. In few years, the generations changes, right? So that is the point. The older generation, what I've experienced is they try to push upon a single kind of idea over you. The younger generation is a rebel and denies to learn, and always is in a way ki, I'll figure out the way how I find it good. Find a balance in between. Must have that rebellious nature, but do not see, as they say now, that learn from others' experiences, learn from specifically your elders' experiences, but then you deserve your own wisdom as well. Right.
Wise words from a wise young man. I mean, I must say that this has been a great session
So
for
thank you,
for
sir.
the day. I really enjoyed it, Mr. Tiwari, and I mean I really mean it. I'm not just saying for the edge of saying it. I'm really saying it because I really mean it. So hope you also enjoyed the session.
Lovely.
I mean, if there's anything that we missed, I promise our viewers that we're going to have Mr. Tiwari again soon after the conference, and we're going to do another session with him, and we'll talk more about some other trending topics in the international legal industry and have more of his views on what's going on there. So thank you very much, Mr. Tiwari, for joining us for the session. And for our viewers, if you like this chat, which I'm sure that you do with Mr. Tiwari, I want you to like this video, to share this video, and click on that red button to subscribe to Click of the Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have more coming in from industry leaders, from legal industry leaders like Mr. Vivek Tiwari himself. This was Sagar for Let's Talk World, signing off.